Welcome everybody to today's Reframe and Refresh Disability in the Arts. We are so excited that you are here for our conversation and discussion with our esteemed panelists. Please take time to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're zooming in from, and if you're with an institution, please, or organization, please let us know as well. Last time I did favorite, I think ice cream flavor. Let's just go with, and feel free to share your favorite dessert of choice if you have one, just for fun. My name is Larissa Lamb, and I am with New Day Films. I will give a more formal introduction in just a little bit, but we will wait a couple more minutes to let people in. But thank you for arriving early for the early birds here. And I see we have people coming in from Michigan. Hello. That's a very, very nice place. I hear. I've never been to Michigan. And if you're just joining us, feel free to utilize the chat to introduce yourself. Toronto. We always have like at least one Canadian when we do a reframe and refresh. So hello to our friends up north. And we've got Eureka, California, cherry pie. Oh, that's a good one. And oh, there's we got some people with some sweet tooth in the chat. If you're we have someone who says ice cream, cookies and cream, and that's fantastic, from Arizona. Michelle from New Jersey. We have Alice from outstanding.org in Boston. Hello. Someone is from Pasadena. That's where I am as well. And thank you for all the introductions. I'm trying to get through them quickly. Someone from San Diego State, and our friends at Duke and Durham. If you didn't know, the archives for all of New Day films is actually held at the Duke Archives. And so we did a wonderful 50th anniversary celebration last year, film series on the campus of Duke University. And someone from Bates College in Maine, my cousin actually attended there for a little bit. And I love lobsters, so I've always wanted to go to Maine. We've got Delaware in the house, and excellent. We have so many people. We have someone who's with the Long War Theater, an autistic and disabled playwright. Thank you for being here. And Denver, Colorado, another person from Colorado. Lots of people from Colorado represented here. Minneapolis, thank you. If you are just joining us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're from. And if you would like to share what your favorite dessert is, feel free to include that as well. I see Dr. Mitch Tepper from Atlanta is joining us. He is one of our New Day filmmakers. And this is fantastic. Mint chocolate chip is also my favorite. Someone from University of Toledo mentioned that. I will give the official welcome in about a minute, but we'll let a few more people join our Zoom. And thank you. Somebody loves lemon cake. I will admit I am not a big fan of lemon, but my husband Baldwin is. And we've got some cheesecake lovers that we are seeing in here. Welcome once again to Reframe and Refresh. We have a monthly series that New Day Films hosts for the education community, and we're so glad that you are joining us here. We'll let a few more people in and we will get things officially kicked off. But in the meantime, if you're just joining us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and to tell us where you are zooming from, what institution or organization you're with. And if you'd like to share your favorite dessert, please do. I think, unfortunately, this is making everybody very hungry, and I know this is not promoting the greatest health habits, but it's great to talk about it in the chat. All right. I'm going to get ready here to do our official introduction to get things started. So hang on one second. We'll get things rolling here. All right. If you're just joining us, just wanted to remind you, you can feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and tell us where you're zooming from. And if you'd like to let us know what institution or organization you're with, please do. I'm here to officially welcome you to the Reframe and Refresh Disability in the Arts. We have a fantastic group of panelists here today. The conversation will be moderated by Cheryl Green, filmmaker of Who Am I to Stop It? And today we have with us Victor Ilyukhin, filmmaker of, excuse me, 2 and 20 Troubles. We also have Nomy Lamm, filmmaker of Loving with 3 Hearts, Amor con tres corazones. We also have one of the subjects and a performer with the group Sins Invalid, Maria Palacios, as well as a fantastic glamputee, educator, artist, activist, Alex Locust with us today. My name is Larissa Lamb. I am on the steering committee of New Day Films. I'm also the director of a film called Far East Deep South, which is about Chinese families in Mississippi during segregation. I am an Asian female with black hair, and I'm wearing a green aqua top. I'm also sitting in front of an orange and yellow background, reframe and refresh. My pronouns are she, her. And we're grateful that you've taken time out of your busy schedules to attend today's panel. And as mentioned before, Reframe and Refresh is a monthly series hosted for the education filmmaking community to have refreshing conversations that hopefully reframe our perspectives on different topics. And today's panel is hosted by New Day Films, and here to share more about New Day Films is Jonathan Skurnick.
Hi, everyone. This is Jonathan. I'm a member of New Day Films. I'm a Caucasian male with blue glasses using a reframe and refresh background, and I'm so glad to be here and to tell you a little bit about New Day Films. So New Day is a unique filmmaker-run distribution cooperative providing award-winning films to educators, community groups, government agencies, public libraries, and businesses since 1971. We are over 50 years old. We're democratically run by more than 150 filmmaker members, and New Day is committed to reflecting greater diversity, representation, and inclusion. New Day Films has been broadcast on PBS, HBO, and other media outlets. It is celebrating over 50 years of delivering dynamic and provocative storytelling with filmmakers who have won hundreds of awards, including Emmys and Oscars. We are happy today to bring you programming in 2 of our most recent titles.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that wonderful overview of New Day Films. And if you're just joining us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. To introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're zooming in from and what institutional organization you might be with. Some quick housekeeping materials were, some quick housekeeping items before I turn it over to our moderator for today. Please keep yourself on mute during the conversation. We will have time for Q&A after our initial conversation with our panelists. So please utilize the chat box for those questions. And please be courteous in our chat box. We know we have different people coming from different perspectives and experiences. Let's keep this a positive and affirming environment. Today's discussion is not meant to be an exhaustive one on disability, but we hope in the limited time we do hope in the limited time that we do have that we're able to catalyze more conversation around this topic and spur more learning beyond today. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today. Cheryl Green is a disabled audio describer, captioner, filmmaker, and member of New Day Films since 2016. In 2020, she was a Doc NYC New Leaders Fellow, and she was recently named as a Rockwood Documentary Leaders Fellow for 2023. Yay, Cheryl! As former digital operations team lead at New Day, she worked on several initiatives to increase and improve accessibility for our film collection. And her film in the New Day collection is Who Am I to Stop It? So please give a warm welcome to Cheryl Green.
Thank you so much, Larissa. I'm really happy to be here. I'm Cheryl. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a white Ashkenazi Jewish woman with olive skin and a fabulous puff of brown curly something hair on my head. Thank you, Pandemic Haircuts from Home. And I'm really excited to see the the space filling up, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists, and then we will play some trailers and then bring them up for the discussion. So here's the introduction to our panelists. First, Nomy Lamm is part of the team behind the film Loving with Three Hearts, Amar con tres corazones. She is the creative director of Sins Invalid, a disability justice-based performance project that incubates and celebrates artists with disabilities, centering Black and Brown, queer, trans, and non-binary artists. Nomy is a musician, illustrator, creative coach, and Kohonet, Hebrew priestess, who sings cosmic power ballads and creates earth-based Jewish ritual tools. Nomy lives in Olympia, Washington, on occupied Squaxin land with their partner Lisa and their 3 animal companions. Maybe we'll see one today. A next panelist, Victor Ilyukhin, is an award-winning nonfiction filmmaker who has worked internationally in documentary film and television for more than 10 years, focusing on social issues, human rights, and mental health. He produced the documentary Busy Inside, which aired on PBS in 2021. Ilyukhin's film 2 in 20 Troubles. Sorry, somebody is highlighting the document. Maybe we can not highlight the document, if you don't mind. The script that I'm reading from, if you can, whoever is highlighting it. Sorry, Victor, your film 2 in 20 Troubles has screened at festivals worldwide. The film received funding and support from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. And most recently, Victor directed and produced a series of educational films on people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in partnership with the nonprofit Positive Exposure. Our next panelist, Maria Palacios, also known as Goddess on Wheels, is a poet, author, spoken word performer, and workshop facilitator who has performed with Sins Invalid since 2007. Maria has published several books, including Poetic Confessions, Volumes 1 and 2, Dressing Skeletons, and Cryptionary. I think I have several of those. Maria's work echoes the resilience of Crip survival through the lens of her own experience as a Latina, immigrant, disabled woman living in Houston. Maria is a subject in the documentary Loving with Three Hearts, Amar con tres corazones. I know there is a companion animal we may see soon, maybe not. Our last panelist is Alex Locust. Alex is a community organizer, educator, and artist celebrating the work of disability justice activists as a North Star for collective liberation. Drawing on their background in group counseling, Alex fosters reflective spaces for heart work and connection rooted in equity and justice, centering the lived experiences of those most marginalized. Alex graduated from San Francisco State University with an MS in clinical rehabilitation and mental health counseling, and has contributed to publications on vocational recovery for people living with psychiatric disabilities, in addition to being featured in a film on cultural competency for helping counselors and psychologists. Alex serves as a board member for Lion Martin Community Health Services and the ARC San Francisco, and as a juror member for the Superfest International Disability Film Festival, which is where I met you, Alex. Superfest, everybody, write it down. Go to Superfest, it's online. With that, thank you so much, panelists, for being here. We're going to watch 2 trailers and then open up the conversation. The first trailer we're going to show is Loving with Three Hearts, and a quick description. How do 8 Crip artists collectively create a performance about the effects of climate chaos on their lives during an uncontrolled global pandemic, unprecedented wildfires, and the same old racist, homophobic, transphobic ableism? That's the story of Loving with Three Hearts, a behind-the-scenes look at what it took to make the performance We Love Like Barnacles, Crip Lives, and Climate Chaos. Let's watch that caption trailer.
An octopus has 3 hearts. 1, 2, 3. Each heart has a slightly different role in propelling the octopus's glorious body through the murky depths of the ocean. To taste, touch, feel, pulse, all 3 hearts must work together.
I think that the non-disabled world tends to see needing each other as a weakness, but in reality, it's how we stay strong. It is our resilience and our strength. When we need one another, it basically demonstrates our humanity, how real we are.
When we started having a conversation about this performance several years ago, because I knew that we couldn't, in any political integrity, talk about disability justice without acknowledging the context that we were in, which was extreme crisis on the globe. And we also know that the people that get hit the hardest are cribs.
One day, you surrender to the realization of our immortality against the fragility of your boring normality.
They don't think Black disabled lives matter. Their ableism allows them to exclude us because they fear becoming us.
Do you recall what it was that finally allowed you to realize climate chaos is real?
Will we learn to clutch each other as lifelines and save each other?
The regime that we're living under really sees the planet itself and our lives as disposable. And I think disability justice at the intersections with climate justice really disrupts that and calls us into new action and new commitments to each other, a new awareness of interdependence.
It is a collective effort to propel our movements forward, a collective effort to keep our movements alive. The title of this documentary reflects the collective spirit and nature of Crip Body Minds, the praxis of disability justice, and the future worlds we co-create. Loving with Three Hearts, a Sins Invalid production.
All right, thank you so much for playing that beautiful trailer. And I just love a disability-related event that starts with disability justice, moving the needle so far forward from conversations from not that long ago, or even today, that focus just on medical stuff. So we're going to get into that and disability culture and disability art. And so with that, I would like to turn to the trailer for 2 and 20 Troubles. And the quick description of that one: Anthony Lopez and Rachel Handler, 2 disabled actors who are both amputees, intend to restart their careers after a long hiatus. And so we'll pull up that captioned trailer.
How can the world see me in a way that's interesting or valuable? Like any kid, I was just very self-conscious.
Never gonna be on Broadway. This isn't gonna happen. Everything's messed up.
I want to get back into just performing. It's been a while since I really did anything.
It's not so much because other people are telling you you can't do it. It's because you're telling you you can't do it. That's the biggest misconception.
Go like this, go like this. Make them look at you. Then your next line.
Would you ever go out with an amputee?
You're very exposed, and that can be a very good thing.
That you can roam the streets and be dead and freak people out, and that's what I like doing.
I mean, it's not like I've never used my leg to get out of things before. It's a comedy, yeah. It's supposed to be funny. Sometimes I get worried that I feel like maybe I won't be able to make it work because of my physical difference.
But I still think that everything happens for a reason, and you just have to have faith and trust that you will find your way.
You've taken great hysterical pleasure in the misfortunes of your life.
I'm used to it, and I can smile.
I want you to do everything.
As long as you don't, Broadway dream might go away.
That's not gonna go away.
No, I want to do film.
I'm starting from here now.
Thank you. Wonderful. Yay, disability arts, disabled artists. And I just want to point out, thank you, Victor, for the reminder to point out all three of the films, well, the two you just saw and my film as well, they're all captioned. New Day films are all captioned, but ours also all have audio description and Loving with Three Hearts in Spanish as well as in English. And I just so appreciate you reminding me, Victor, to make sure that folks know that we really take accessibility seriously as part of the art. And if we're going to promote disabled artists, we're going to include disability access in that work. And so
I just want to say ours is also in ASL.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So trilingual. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nomy. Wow. So Love Fest. Okay. I have some individual questions, but we want this to be fun and conversational and light. So if I ask a question to one of you, anybody can answer, whatever you like. Let's just have a conversation. But to start, Nomy, or anyone who wants to weigh in after Nomy, this film, Loving with Three Hearts, is just such a neat example to me of interdependence. And in the film, someone says, we each have a different role to fill for collective liberation. And one thing I saw in the film that was repeated was there are deaf and disabled and non-disabled people who all come to the camera. Well, hello, pup. Everybody check out Maria's pup. I can't remember if the pup was in the film, but deaf, disabled, and non-disabled people all speak to the camera and share things that they're learning about access while making the show and the behind-the-scenes documentary. Would you talk about why Sins Invalid focuses on access for collective liberation rather than for just inclusion?
Yeah, well, Sins Invalid really was founded as a, I mean, it's a performing arts organization, but it's really got a revolutionary framework for like, what are our goals in the world? So, and I think that inclusion often implies that we're not the ones at the center doing it and making it happen. And with Sins Invalid, it was founded by Patty Byrne and Leroy Moore, who are both Black and well, Patty's queer and disabled, and bringing voices that have been kind of like pushed out or marginalized even within disability rights into the center. And so then when we are being in community together, it's this negotiation of how do we meet our needs? How do we meet each other's needs? Using whatever resources are available to us. Some of them might be, institutional supports of whatever, because like we have to live, but that's not the end goal to be like, let's get the government to do such and such for us. We're like, just let us live. Like we can actually do it. We can create this together. We just need the space to know each other and the resources to support each other and make this happen. And with the film, I mean, we were doing it under really strict COVID protocol. Like we did a performance where we were renting out theaters where you couldn't have more than 5 people at a time in a space, so it was like we were learning so much. None of us had ever had to navigate that before. So yeah, thanks.
Wow. Yeah. And you navigated it through dialogue and being with each other. And yeah. Oh, great. Victor, in your film, 2 and 20 Troubles, there's one moment that really struck me, and Anthony and Rachel are sitting, they're at rehearsal, they're sitting close together and they're whispering to each other about their shared experiences and their concerns around their disabilities. And throughout the film, there are scenes where people will basically speak to the camera and talk about parts of their disabilities for the audience. But in this scene, Rachel and Anthony, it's so intimate. It's 2 disabled people relating to each other. And that feels so different from like the standard interview. Can you tell me about your decision to have that scene in there, especially so early in the film?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. I mean, I think that Anthony and Rachel, they just had this kind of friendship and chemistry between them from the start, because also they have a little bit different story. Anthony, he was disabled from birth, and Rachel, she just became disabled after an accident. So I think for her it was actually a little bit more difficult to be under the spotlight and to cope with the new changing identity and to feel like free about it on stage. So I felt like Anthony just gave her some little bit more guidance, and this relationship was really important, and they still great friends. So when we got this intimate scene and the introduction to each other, I just felt like that's that's crucial scene for the film. And I think for me, I don't identify as disabled, but when I came to New York, it was just maybe first year when I was in New York, and I found this Nico Spoon Theater, and it just felt so welcoming, and I felt like we all have some sort of identity, a part of identity that's visible for others first. So for me, it felt like I'm just a newcomer, an immigrant. I was struggling speaking English a little bit, but there in this group, like everyone was just celebrated and accepted, and they immediately, agreed to be filmed, and I just felt like in this company of friends where I was learning, and I think about looking past this any part of identities that might be restricting for other people to see you for who you are, and just be yourself. So that's why I also felt like scenes like with Anthony and Rachel were talking to this point in the film.
Definitely. Thank you. And it reminds me of things in the Sins Invalid film too, about relationship, negotiation and relationship. And it's also crucial for me to mention that there is another dog on camera in Nomy's window. That is Mama, who, any New Day meeting I'm excited to go to because Mama will be there. Unrelated to your answer, Victor, but thank you so much. And I also appreciate you talking about that kind of intersection of there's this theater company with disabled performers, you're coming in non-disabled, an immigrant who's learning English, and there is, I think those kind of cross identity, cross movement relationships are so wonderful and important. Let me now ask a question to Alex. And I read this out in your bio, and I just wanted to dig in a little bit about disability justice is your North Star in your work, your art, and your play. What does a disability justice focus bring to the arts that a disability rights and a focus on accommodations doesn't? Or just talk about disability justice as your North Star, whatever you want.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Cheryl. Well, Nomy already gave credit to Patty and Leroy for kind of Sins Invalid as a framework. I want to shout out Nomy and Maria. I'm kind of like a little, starstruck because Sins Invalid is how I came to disability justice, seeing Sins Invalid in the Bay. I believe 2016 was like the first performance that I got to see in person. And as a queer, disabled person of color, like many spaces that I'm in, I often feel like I have to like pick and choose my identities. Is it a queer space? Is it a space for Black and brown folks? Is it about disability? Those spaces often don't integrate I don't feel that harmony where I can feel all of those parts of myself honored. And to see Sins Invalid have all of these gorgeous, melanated, queer, disabled bodies celebrating their sexuality and being really provocative and challenging and emotional and joyful and playful, like that to me just like cracked my world wide open and was such a possibility model for what it means to like honor the totality of like the disabled experience. So I think for myself as an artist, you know, disability justice is really like kind of an accountability model of like how am I talking about things, how am I exploring things, how am I holding space to ensure that all of the oppression that we're trying to dismantle, all of the like justice that we're aiming toward is being taken into consideration, rather than like we don't live single issue lives. So when we only talk about disability, we're not really considering all of how every other aspect is coming into it. I think when I think about film, when I think about art that I'm drawn to, you know, people want to make art that challenges people. They want to make art that like hasn't been done before, or is saying something new, or you're adding. And I think when I see a lot of like disability media just like white disabled people, or like kind of just only talking about disability, it's like there's so many stories that haven't been told. There's so many experiences that have depth and complexity and nuance. And I would also say, just from the like practical aspect, you know, I heard Nomy talking about like in COVID, like practically creating art. You know, I think disability justice, if you're having to create work that you think about having to also mitigate racist microaggressions in a space that also has like accessible all gender bathrooms, like when you're thinking about all of these different identities, you're just making better art because you're elevating your practice, you know. So I think disability justice is a really great way to say, like, if I think I'm the artist that I say that I am, like, how do I make sure that I uphold those values?
Thank you so much, Alex. And I have to say, related or unrelatedly, I suddenly remembered that I forgot to ask each of our esteemed panelists to give a brief a self-description, like a visual description. I've been up since 2:30 this morning. I'm toast. Just for full transparency, everybody, insomnia is a thing. So I want to direct this last question to Maria. If you would start with your self-description, and then we'll loop back around and get those self-descriptions that I forgot to ask you to do. So Maria, Goddess on Wheels, with a beautiful pup with you. And accessibility in the arts is not just about ramps or captions or those things that a lot of non-disabled people have heard of. I want to ask you to share something that you shared several times in the documentary. Can you share some thoughts right now about how addressing ableism is so key to increasing accessibility, and give your visual description? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Hello. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. It is such a joy to be in your company. And Cheryl, I adore you. I haven't seen you in forever. So when I knew that you were moderating, I was like, yay, you know, so I love you. My name is Maria Palacios. I am a Latina, light-skinned, indigenous Latina from South America. I am wearing, because I did get the memo, even though I couldn't get the image in the background, I did get the memo to match. Pure luck, really. I'm wearing a mustard top, V-neck, and I have black hair, which is not visible right now because I am wearing a really cool hat. I wouldn't know how to describe it. It's not a baseball cap, but it's almost like, it just fits me. And I am in a very boring, just plain wall background. I'm sitting in bed. Our household right now is fighting COVID. So yeah, it's just rough. Anyway, thank you so much for your question. I feel that addressing ableism, especially as it relates to art, is super important, because ableism is at the root of all evil and all evil oppression that disabled people face, you know? So I feel that there is so much ableism, like over the top, ridiculous. We're drowning in ableism. We're breathing, we're eating, you know, therefore everything. Like me, I feel like I always tell people, you cannot unsee what we've seen. We cannot unlive what we live. And because of ableism, everything is so profoundly soaked with ableism that it's kind of like, I feel like every single day of my life as a disabled person, I have to like just peel off all these layers of oppression caused by ableism. And as an artist, I feel that it affects disabled artists in a sense, because ableism affects the way that we see ourselves. Internalized ableism is so real that a lot of times, even though we are powerful and beautiful and sexy and just badasses, unless we're able to see that, and we won't be able to reflect it, we won't be able to tell the truth about who we are as Crips. So I feel that it's very important for us to battle ableism, to crack it open, to expose it, to name it, to speak the truths about the oppression that we are facing. And I think as artists, ableism, it's often part of how we heal, expressing and talking about it and cracking it open. It is so, so, so important for the non-disabled world to recognize that we are who we are with our strengths and our beauty because of our disabilities. And that's part of the foundation of disability justice. When we were just talking about disability justice a minute ago, and to me, I felt it like when you're disabled and once we discover disability justice, it's like nothing else. It's like recognizing that there's something to hold us together. You asked earlier about collective liberation. And to me, it's like, once you realize that all of us in a physical body have needs that deserve to be addressed and met, then there's no way that we can like no longer see each other and other people with value, with inherent just natural value. So how can we leave somebody else behind? So collective liberation is about that. It's about recognizing that we cannot just move on unless we're all moving together. And ableism doesn't allow that. So through our art and through our passions, I feel that we're telling truths that nobody else will let us speak. I feel that as disabled artists, we have so much work to do, so much to like, that we have to dismantle ableism. And I imagine ourselves going through this maze of thorns and just with like a hatchet and all kinds of tools and weapons. Just we have to like cut open all these thorns and limbs and branches just to be able to make it to the damn door. Everybody else can just go and ring the doorbell, but when you're disabled, ableism puts in front of you all these barriers and obstacles. And watching the films, and of course, Living with Three Hearts is like, I'm part of it, so I'm very proud of it. And I also watched the other film, and one of the things that I saw like a commonality is how disabled artists were so hungry for that space that allows us to express, to paint, to sing, to dance, to just be our natural artistic selves. But there's little or no platform out there that allows us to embody that with pride and with love. If disability is ever put on stage, it's usually with inspiration porn, with pity, with like, oh, poor disabled people, or look what the medical model has done to heal, or, I'm preaching to the choir. We all know what that's like. So addressing ableism is one of the most fundamental, important pieces of our work that we do consciously and unconsciously. And I say it like that because when you're an artist and you're disabled, you're automatically expressing your survival and how we're having to keep our head above water and imagine ourselves drowning in this ocean of ableist bullshit, and when you're an artist, if you're able to like put something out there that reflects your true nature, that tells the world, hey, I may look broken to you, but I'm whole and gorgeous, and I am whole and gorgeous because I'm disabled, not despite of it, So I could go on and on, but yeah, I'm obsessed with ableism. I feel that, like I said earlier, you cannot unring the bell. We cannot unsee what we see. And once we recognize ableism and its ugly, naked truth, then it's impossible to not feel it, to not be able to say, wait a minute, this is ableist, and the way that we react, it's different. Sometimes, you get so exhausted with ableism that you're like, oh, forget it. Like, I don't have time or energy anymore to say, wait a minute, that's ableist, but we're constantly fighting ableism. And those of us who do it through disability justice, we do it nonstop, because when we live and breathe and eat and sleep disability justice, it's a constant thing. As a disabled person, I feel that I'm always, always, always fighting for my survival. Physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, artistically, you name it, we'll have to fight for it. So yeah, fuck ableism. Check.
And there you have it, folks. It's a wrap. Thank you so much, Maria. Oh my goodness. Now, in order to cut through some of the ableist bullshit, as you pointed out, let's go back and get those quick visual descriptions that I failed to get before. So maybe we can go in the order before Nomy, then Victor, then Alex, name, pronouns, and a quick visual description. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Nomy. I use she and they pronouns, and I'm sorry, there's a lot of other sounds happening that are making it hard for me to focus. I'm a fat, white, Jewish, non-binary femme person with short bangs, dark hair that is getting shaped very weirdly by the background. I was kind of obsessing over it before we got on this call. I'm wearing a rose-colored scarf and like a gray shirt and jumper in front of the New Day Reframe and Refresh orange and yellow background. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, I'm Victor. I'm a Caucasian man. I use he, him. I have short hair and a beard, and I'm wearing dark blue sweater today. And I also have orange and yellow Reframe and Refresh background.
Hey y'all, Alex Locust. I use he, she, and they pronouns. You can refer to me as glamputee if you're nasty. I am living my glamputee fantasy in a floral, kind of like peachy orange blazer. I've got my dark curly Leo mane on display, glasses, scruff, some chipped nails. Yeah, I just also want to express gratitude to Maria for what she offered. I feel like what the two films are doing is helping, again, offer a possibility model of like disabled people making art together, which I think helps, like, I think a lot about Mia Mingus's like access intimacy work and like the way that when disabled people are in community, like we can show up for each other in those access needs and like innovate and adapt together rather than being like a sole disabled person in a space, like trying to kind of like Maria said, like hatchet our way through ableism just to like be a baseline. I'm at a point in my life where I'm like identifying as an artist and performing for the first time and kind of laughing that it's like I've been a theater kid all along and I had no idea. And it's like, I think if ableist spaces weren't, if I wasn't dealing with ableism, or if I had possibilities like Sins Invalid or these films, like as a child with a disability, I think I might have felt more empowered or curious about like all of this Leo energy that I have, that I want to perform and I want to be boisterous and expressive. And yeah, being in the Bay, being around people who like ask about access need checks in the beginning and getting to work with other disabled people, I think has created spaces where I'm like feeling more comfortable to like do drag or other things like that. So I just wanted to add that in, and also that I love Cheryl as well.
You can't, don't throw me off like that. I'm supposed to be the moderator. I am so excited to hear about this performance in Leo energy, and also 3 cheers to water in a mason jar. Yeah, no, sorry, I got really thrown off. I wanted to just quickly, before I ask my next question, find out if anybody else wanted to kind of respond to what someone else on the panel had said. Like Alex, Nomy, please.
Yeah, a couple things. One is just I have never seen so much amputee representation, like literally never. And so that's cool. I'm also an amputee. So like watching a movie that has 2 amputees in it and then being on this panel with glamputee Alex Locust, it's really a treat. And then I also just wanted to say, with some of the stuff that Maria was talking about, like I had a meeting the other day about promoting our film, and someone was asking like, what are the goals? And I was like, well, the goals, like the impact that we want to have is like for disabled people to survive. Like we're talking about climate chaos. The people that are most impacted by climate chaos in every single community are going to be disabled people. Like literally we get left to die. And so the more people are even aware of this and aware of us as humans that are trying to have our lives, then and the more we're able to know each other and support each other, like with work that Maria does around the CRIP Survival Network. And yeah, just like let's stay alive to like build the future, because there is a future. And I also wanted to credit Maria with really inspiring Sins Invalid to take steps towards language justice also, because after we did the We Love Like Barnacles show, Maria was like, I couldn't invite a lot of my community to come to this show because it's only in English. Like, and so then we were like, oh, okay, we need to make our offerings be multilingual. And so this film is multilingual, and there's 2 different Spanish versions. One is has audio description and one without. And I just want to name that if folks are wanting to watch those versions, we're still working some stuff out with some of the audio and the captioning. So if you watch it and there's an issue with it, let me know and I can let you know when we have it fixed, because it's on its way. We're disabled people doing a lot of stuff trying to make it happen. So thanks for your patience and understanding. And thank you, Maria, for being such a world changer.
Sorry, I keep getting so drawn in by the things that you're saying, and then I'm like, wait, but I'm also supposed to think of questions to ask you. But we've heard, like, Alex, what you offered about your experience of experiencing Sins Invalid. I want to kind of build on that. And Victor, what are you hearing from people, Victor, who have watched your film, who say something like what Alex said about, oh, getting to either go to a Nico Spoon performance or watching 2 and 20 Troubles, now I look at something in this new way or feel better about this. I know I have this community.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the film was screened at some events and conferences and festivals where there was also a discussion about inclusion and how much it could be, positive and embracing, and how sometimes it's an obstacle, because even I know Rachel from the movie, she especially struggles with the concept that she can't even get sometimes disabled roles of disabled people because they are played by fully abled, and but also that might put her in a box where she would only play disabled characters. So like the discussion is about that, and how to see, how to create spaces like Sins Invalid and Nico Spoon where people get exposed to like just other all different people playing different characters, and not thinking about it as, this is supposed to be played by a certain type of people that we are used to. And like, because in the art it really doesn't matter, it brings new ways to express yourself and new ways to and it's and it's free and liberating to actually find new ways to stage some maybe older plays or write new stories where everyone can. And so hopefully it will go beyond the organizations that are kind of specifically focusing on this inclusion, but for now, it's just unique spaces where this, like Maria said, where this fight starts. I just wanted to mention that Anthony actually this year had this debut on Broadway. So he made it this far, like after a few years. And Rachel is doing great too. Even though she's not cast in the bigger roles yet, she's participating in Disability Film Challenge every year, and she directs and performs and sings, and she already has like her own filmmaking team, and and she's getting married also. So since we last met.
Great, thank you. And Jonathan is back. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, everyone. Baldwin's going to put some slides up on the screen. We're just going to pause for like less than 2 minutes just to share some general information about New Day. So New Day offers a variety of ways to stream our diverse collection of films, including ones dealing with disability. So please visit our website at newday.com to see our collection of diverse films. Someone did ask in the chat about the fact that our films can be overly priced for some communities. So if that's the case, what I would recommend is sending an email to the filmmaker and just explaining your situation. And I'd say probably 100% of New Day filmmakers will just offer, do a pay what you can. I mean, we do need to get paid for our films because it costs so much money to make a film. But for folks who can't afford it, we want to make sure you can access our films. So just let us know and we'll work with you. Our next slide is about social media. You can follow us on Facebook. There's links there, and on Twitter, and also on Instagram. We have lots of good folks putting out some great information on those various social media outlets. Let's go to the next slide. The films featured today are available on New Day. I put the links in the chat. You can just go to newday.com and look up the names of the films. It's easy to find them. And 2 in 20 Troubles is also available on Canopy for higher education. And Nomy pointed out that although her film is not on Canopy at the moment, it will be at some point in the near future. And then finally, let's go to the next slide. If you happen to be a filmmaker interested in joining New Day, the next webinar for new filmmakers is Wednesday, May 17th at 11 a.m. EST, 8 a.m. PT, and all the other time zones in between. So you can sign up for an orientation webinar at our website, and I'll put the link in the chat for that. And finally, I will reintroduce or bring back Cheryl. And we now have a little bit of time, a few minutes. We have lots of great questions. I don't know if we'll have time for all of them, but Cheryl, I put them in the document. So feel free to take back the lead and ask some of these questions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you for putting them in the Google Doc where they're so much bigger than they are in chat. Oh, I can see them. Yes, there are a lot of excellent questions. And so let me just start with the first one. This one really speaks to my heart because when I was making my film, Who Am I to Stop It?, my disabilities were more profound, and we had to factor in accessibility for me, the filmmaker, while making the film, which I never hear people talk about. So I'm excited by this question, which is, what are the artists, this is for y'all, what are the artist strategies, technologies, or beliefs in making film work accessible to them? What access did y'all need, use, do, promote?
With Sins Invalid, so our director, I'm listed as the filmmaker because I represent the film within New Day, but actually the director is Patty Byrne, and she directed most of the film from bed, and so and that included directing the performance and then also the behind the scenes documentary about it. And so when I was in the theater in Seattle with like just the tech people and like my access support person, and sometimes having to ask one person to leave so that somebody else could come in to do something, Patty was had multiple camera angles to be able to see what was happening in the room and give direction that way. And then she worked with an editor in kind of the same way from bed, and communicating over Zoom and through email, and you could see that some of it was filmed over Zoom, like some of those final conversations we had over Zoom. So yeah, that's some of it. I feel like, Cheryl, you probably have a lot more information than I do about making filmmaking accessible.
Trial and error. And I have to say, Dominic Evans directed, I cannot remember the name of the music video, directed a music video from bed. Jen Brea directed Unrest, the documentary from bed. This is, in our community, not an unusual sounding thing, and a very appropriate thing. If where you are is in bed and you're directing a film, then that's where you'll direct a film. This idea that to direct a film has to look a certain way or work on a certain schedule is ableist and classist. Anyway, anything else? Oh, Victoria, maybe could mute. Thank you. For making my film in terms of access, the big one was pacing and timing. Sometimes I fell asleep in the middle of a film shoot. Can someone help Victoria stay muted? Thanks. Yeah, I would fall asleep during a shoot. They'd let me sleep, finish a shoot without me. If I double booked and forgot I had a film shoot, we'd get other people to fill in for me on my own film because I just forgot we were filming. Those were some of the things that we used. Any other offerings from anyone else on the panel about?
I just wanted to say that when we talk about accessibility, let's go back to disability justice and remember that our access needs are exactly that, access needs. The non-disabled world tends to think that our needs are a burden. And that's the beginning of the dismantling of ableist BS that we need to do, Access needs are just that. Everybody has needs and we all have different needs. So when we organize anything that we do and we apply disability justice, then the first thing is for us, ourselves, to recognize that we are never a burden, that our needs are just that, needs that need to be addressed. And that's it. And yeah, God, disability justice is wonderful. And it can be complicated because of ableism, because we beat ourselves up and we tend to feel that we don't deserve to have our needs met, or that we feel that we have to measure up to non-disabled expectations. So it's all about constantly having to fight ableism. So yeah, yes, I'm obsessed with ableism, yeah.
Well, I love the way you express your obsession with ableism and with crushing ableism. And what you said just reminds me, Victor, of what you said earlier, that you were new here and learning English, and that is an access need. You had a language access need, and it doesn't have to be like so distinct from disability access needs. They're not special needs, they're needs. And I think that just looking at the schedule of things, I wanted to check in with our organizers if this is where I should hand it back over to you.
We can take one more question.
Okay, great. So let me, somebody is, I'm just scrolling because some of these we could talk about each for 5 hours. So somebody had a question. How have you been able to leverage disability to acquire funding for your projects? Which I think is really interesting, or not be able to acquire funding. But can anybody speak to that, leveraging disability in terms of getting funding?
I guess I'll say that there is, I think, connected with COVID and the pandemic, that there is some focus on disability and specifically leadership from disabled Black and Brown and queer and trans people. And so, there's a number of different networks, and Ford Foundation has been focusing some efforts on disability orgs. And so I think we are in a little bit of a moment right now where there's some money out there for disability justice work, or at least disabled-led work. Yeah, I think that's all I can say. Yeah.
I'm just pausing because I'm looking at the clock.
Yeah, this has been a fantastic conversation. Why don't we just give all our panelists one quick last word that they would love the audience to kind of know before we say goodbye to everybody. You want to start, Victor?
Well, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here, and the panelists, and the Love and with Three Hearts is such a great film. And our films are available on New Day Films website and on Canopy, and hopefully it will be useful for educational needs as well.
Alex?
Yeah, gratitude to the panel, to Cheryl, to New Day. Disability justice is it. I don't know what else to say. It's made me a better artist, lover, community member, global citizen. I feel like it's just always, it's a balm, it's a blanket, it's an oasis every time I turn to it in a time of need. I feel anchored, and it's not easy, but it's worth it. So get with the program.
Maria.
Yes, I just want to say that in our fight to eliminate ableism, let's do it with love. Self-love automatically fights ableism. In a world that hates disabled people, when we dare to love ourselves, we're automatically fighting ableism. So remember, self-love automatically fights ableism.
And last but not least, Nomy.
Oh my gosh, your pup agrees. This is amazing. Thank you so much. And people, I put this in the chat, but people can follow Sins Invalid. It's the @Sins Invalid, or sinsinvalid.org, and sign up for our newsletter and stay involved. We're gonna do a hybrid event, an in-person and also streamed event in October. So look out for us. We're doing cool stuff. Oh, there's actually a workshop May 7th that's myself and Jiba Kalamka are co-leading on. It's called Let Me Clear My Throat, and it's on voice and rage, and would love for folks to come to that.
And Nomy, if you send me that information, I can actually email it to everybody that's registered here today. Cheryl, thank you so much for doing a marvelous job moderating, and to our panelists, Alex, Victor, Nomy, and Maria. We are so grateful that you are here. And to everybody that attended today, thank you, thank you. There was a lot of wonderful resources and hopefully connections that were made, which is part of the reason we host Reframe and Refresh. I will be emailing everybody links so that you don't have to frantically save the chat, but you can use the 3 dots in the corner of the chat if you don't know to save your chat. But I will be emailing some of the links and resources shared today. Our next Reframe and Refresh is going to be in May, so stay tuned in your emails or follow us on social media to find out when that will happen next. And of course, continue these conversations about access, about liberation for the disability community, for all these wonderful things, disability justice that we're talking today, because it's an ongoing conversation. Thank you once again on behalf of New Day. We bid you farewell.